Hello little hoes, my name is Kristen and welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute since I've done a video. I've said it before, I'll continue to say it. Sometimes I just go through phases where I'm not really interested in plants or my heart really isn't into making videos, so I don't force myself. If I feel like it, I feel like it. And today I feel like it. This one is a little bit late. Most of the time I love to do my favorite plant of the year video right around New Year's. Obviously it's later than that, so it's been on my mind. I just haven't executed it. At the moment I am super back into my plants and have a lot of chores and catching up to do, but I thought I would make this video today of my top 3 favorite plants, maybe throw in a couple of honorable mentions in there. But this year there is, by a landslide vote, me, myself, and I, all 3 of us, have decided that there is one clear winner, and everyone else, you know, they're all right, but there is a distinct winner here. And this year there are definitely some that are older in my collection but have really come into their own this past year and impressed me. So let's start with the honorable mentions. This is my Hoya publicalis, and you guys will know if you have been with me for a bit on this channel that I am not great with Hoyas. I have had some extreme ups and mostly downs with Hoyas, and this is the plant as well as my Hoya carrii, the variegated, that kind of has put its foot in the door to my revisiting Hoyas in general and maybe trying to grow a few more this year. Now let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm still not convinced that I can grow them well, but this guy has really exploded this year, and I started these as cuttings that I purloined from my work, and it was just some small starts in a pot that did nothing for a very long time. Dare I say, like a year or more, they just sat in the pot. This year, this plant has just gone crazy. It has put out just a ton of new growth, and you can see these long vines, and these have some baby leaves at the end, and I managed to snap the tip off that one. I don't know if you can see it. Certainly not when I'm doing this, but you know, it's fun. I wonder if this is like those tassel pasties. This plant deserves a mention, just not only because it has grown well, but because it's kind of opened up the possibility of me revisiting this genus, which I appreciate. I appreciate plants that change my mind and make me rethink former opinions. This plant did that so much so that I actually bought another Hoya publicalis. This one rolled through my work and it was extremely splashy, extremely silver colored, more so than my main one, and I had to have it, so I bought it. I put it in this really cool sort of mauve pink planter and put a hoop on it. It desperately needs water now, but yeah, I'm expecting some good things of this plant, at least in the future when it settles in. Hey, it is future editing Kristen here. I also wanted to pause here and say that I also have really gotten back into Hoyas thanks to a really awesome trade with a really awesome person and fellow YouTuber Kelly Hoya. She sent me a care package with a ton of cool little starts, and they definitely have started to rekindle my interest in growing Hoyas. So thank you again, Kelly. All right, so my other honorable mention has got to be my Bueno, Orbano Philodendron. Had this guy for a while, but repotting it this year has really made it just kind of grow out and grow bigger and get bigger leaves. And I love it so much. It's such a dependable plant, and I really can't imagine my collection without it. So that's why I am showing it off and giving it an honorable mention. So I'll be doing a top 3 favorite plants of this year. Why? Because I've always done it that way, and I am a creature of habit. Plant I am mentioning because, as I've said before, I've had some ups and downs this year, and my interest has fluctuated in plants. This plant has not skipped a beat, despite my neglect at many points. It has thrived and grown amazingly, and that is going to be my Peperomia Angulata. Now, this plant I have had probably 2-ish plus years. It is in a 4-inch pot, and I have not repotted it. I have contemplated repotting it, but I have not done so. It's literally just sitting in this sort of gold brass hanging planter. And as long as I remember to water it, fairly often, usually weekly in the winter times, I'm sure probably a couple times a week during the summer months, it rewards me with a ton of growth. I think I just appreciate this plant so much because it reminds me that, if a plant isn't doing good and can't handle a little bit of neglect, maybe it's not worth growing long term, and it's okay to move on to plants or just keep plants in my collection that can handle maybe a little bit of neglect at times, just so that I can focus on myself. So that's why I appreciate this plant. It reminds me that there are plants out there that aren't fussy and dramatic. And I love I love hanging plants. I love trailing, cascading plants in general. Vines are my jam. I also really appreciate the sort of yellow coloration to the veins on this guy. They commonly call this the Beetle Pepperomia, or as I've been seeing it advertised on my availability list at work, Funky Frog Peperomia. So if you see one of these, it's so dependable. I love it. I would consider getting a second one, actually. All right, so moving on to my number 2 this year. This plant I look at often when I sit in sort of my half of the living room, where I can look at the plant rack / grow tent thing and just admire it. It's sitting now up on top of the rack. I did have it inside at one point, but the leaves are getting so big and it's getting so wide that it had to go up top just for space sake. This guy, and I know I'm saying it wrong, but my Philodendron Bilite, or Bilite, however you want to say it. This guy I am in love with. I just love a good comeback story for plants, especially when it's mine. I've told you guys a number of times about how I just sort of resurrected this plant in sphagnum moss. He came in an import a few years ago and wasn't looking so hot after a few days in my care. And I had to pot him up in some sphagnum moss. I threw him in a terrarium and hoped for the best, and it worked out. And I think it sort of cemented my love of sphagnum moss, using it in my propagation boxes, using it for recovering imports. So this plant brings back a lot of memories of when I was very sad about it and thought it was gonna die, and it bounced back hard. This plant has really tremendously grown a lot in the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months. Put off a ton of leaves. This is the newest, and I will say that they don't stay shiny, at least for me. The leaves are a little bit more matte colored, but you can kind of see the backside's a little bit more matte. I don't know if it's maybe like the humidity or mist is kind of adding some calcium deposits, and maybe that's the case, or if they naturally don't retain their shine as they mature. But I did use some neem to sort of glossy up the leaves and take off some of that sort of sediment buildup that I assume is from calcium. These leaves will continue to get bigger as the plant matures, and I think I might this spring repot it into something bigger. This is, like I said, the newest leaf, and it's getting pretty long. Love the lobes, love the shape. I only have one real complaint, and that is that the petioles are green more than orange, as I expected with this species. I assume it's probably because of my low light situation where I have it. So I don't know, maybe I will try and put it closer to a grow light or in the sunroom during the summer and see if maybe the color will pop. Do it. Let's move on to my favorite plant of this year. I got this plant summer of last year. I've got several cuttings of it, some rooted, some just freshly snipped, and it has grown tremendously since that time. I'm blown away every time I look at it, how quickly it's grown. This came from a trade, and I have to say, trades are really near and dear to my heart. I love trading plants with people and just getting to chat plants, meet new people who are as enthusiastic as I am about cool plants. And this guy came from such a trade. And thank you if you're watching. I don't know if you are, but this plant is undoubtedly my favorite of the year. And quite possibly, I'm sure the next few years, it's going to be definitely up there. And that is my Syngonium Elbow. It is a Syngonium podophyllum album, and literally just tiny starts, and all this growth has come from this summer. I even recently took a cutting of it myself, and that's this guy here. It's a little bit lower variegation. There's an all green leaf here, but it was just getting pretty tall, so I decided to propagate it and maybe get this a little bit bushy before I let it grow up. Look at this. I am a sucker for variegated leaves, you guys will know. I particularly love the fact that with a lot of variegated plants such as this, each leaf is new and different, and it's almost like getting a new plant every time something unfurls. You never really know what you're going to expect, and this guy has a ton of high variegation to it, so I can at least expect to get some really nice white in there, as with this leaf, which looks like it might be like 98% white. I don't know how well that will hold up, but so far the highly variegated leaves are sticking around and not burning too badly at all. I also recently repotted it into this cool planter. I love the green, white, and black combo. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's video. I would love to know what your favorite plants of 2021 were and why you love them so much. As always, stay safe, healthy, and insane. I will talk to y'all real soon. Goodbye.